what happens to the environment every time you cut a tree. For every 8th pallet that you buy, you already saved a tree. Why should we cut a tree? Why can't we use the scrap wood as it is? That was a eureka moment for Ecopallet. Take a wood pallet and spray it. Will it be logical enough? When I would carry a 4 kg pallet, a lightweight pallet, and walk in, and imagine a female in a sari carrying that pallet and walking.
Hi Priya, so why don't you tell us how Ecopallet came about? What was the journey?
So we started in 2015. The idea was to introduce lightweight pallets into the market. It was a concept which was basically developed by the Australians, and we had the opportunity to get the product here. We had the machine, and we almost bought the patent at that point of time, and we wanted to launch this product. So our journey started with me being a lone employee there and taking this pallet to every pharma company. They loved it, but they still did not have the feel of, a wood pallet or a plastic pallet. So that was the journey of Ecopallet, where we realized that we needed to have a pallet which can actually be a better pallet, a sustainable pallet, and whatever features we had in our lightweight pallet can also be incorporated in the heavyweight pallet. So that's Ecopallet in a crux.
So how did you go about implementing it? Everyone talks environmental friendly, circular economy. How have you actually implemented that?
I guess it happened to us. When we started, when I would carry a 4 kg pallet, a lightweight pallet, and walk in, the first thing they would look at is like, how are you carrying this pallet? Because a pallet in their mind is a product which is roughly around 32 kgs. And imagine a female in a sari carrying that pallet and walking, right? They would say, how are you carrying this pallet? Are you a heavyweight champion? And then they would like, okay, this is just 4 kgs. So it's easier to, carry. And then they'd say, yeah, it's very futuristic. It's a beautiful product, but we will try to make it work. And then we realized that, why are you trying it? Why are you not implementing it? No, we have certain problems with implementing it because our people are used to it. It was a mindset change, right? And then I started learning a lot about wood pallets, and I realized that there are multiple problems with wood pallets in terms of the way it looks, what happens to the environment every time you cut a tree, what is the shelf life of a product, and most importantly, the people who are handling it, what are the problems that they face, and then the products which are put on it, what kind of problems that those products face. So then we said, can we come up with something which is good? And meanwhile, we had our own set of challenges. Our EPS pallets, EPS is expanded polystyrene. In layman words, it's thermocol. So the moment you say thermocol, first thing you would say is it's not eco-friendly. So, it is eco-friendly, but everything doesn't have to be biodegradable to be eco-friendly.
It's actually very interesting that you say. So can you explain why?
So see, the thing is, if you have a circular economy, then you don't need it to be biodegradable. A circular economy is also something where you constantly reuse it. You repair it, you reuse it. So simple example, we would buy a shoe and then use it for a very long time, right? We had cobblers everywhere and we take it there, stitch. Now we buy something cheap, then what we do is we immediately go, throw it, buy another one. So, somewhere we've all changed, the trend has changed, and it's time to come back to our basics. And we said, okay, what can we do? We realized that our EPS pallets cannot be repaired. It can be recycled, but it cannot be repaired once there's a forklift which goes banging into it. Right. We said, can we have something which is also sturdy? Just give them the feeling of having a wood pallet. Because again, the first thing they would say is, but my wood pallet is repairable. How many times are you repairing it? Maybe every 6th month, every 7th month you repair it.
So in that sense, it was inefficient also.
It was inefficient. We had a problem. But again, I go with the terms, right? Yours is not repairable. My pallet is repairable. So it's like, can we come up with something which can be repairable? And more sturdier. So, when we actually take a forklift and it hits by mistake, or somebody is testing it and it gets hit, it's not broken and you don't have to throw it into the recycling bin. Then we stumbled upon one particular patent which was very innovative. He taken thermocol and then coated it with this spray. And we realized that the spray is amazing. This is something that we use it inside the water tanks. We use it in our metro stations. A lot of places it's been used, but it's not been used on pallets. So it was actually one of my teammates' idea and said, can't we try it on a wood pallet? The first thing we said is, yeah, we'll try it on a wood pallet. But the thing is, we've been talking against it all this time. We've been saying, don't cut trees, and Ecopallet to go ahead and take a wood pallet and spray it. Will it be logical enough? So we said, okay, let's try it. So we took a pure pine wood pallet and then we sprayed this and we went into testing and everything. And we were traveling through one of the areas. That's when we saw a lot of scrap wood lying there. I said, why should we cut a tree? Why can't we use the scrap wood as it is? I said, let's do it. And then that was a eureka moment for Ecopallet. We realized it's not the wood that matters, it's the spray that matters. And in this process, because we knew how to use the spray effectively, we could actually take all the pain points of a wood pallet and convert them into an advantage. So if you look at a wood pallet and say, okay, it's got nail and splinters, we say, okay, it doesn't have any nails and splinters. So I can't put chemical on it. You can, this is chemical resistant. You can't take a wood pallet and put it -40 +70. The moment you coat it, you can go up to -40 and +70. The most important factor on why we call it sustainable is we do not have to repair it every 12th or the 18th month. This has a life of roughly around 7 to 10 years with rough use.
Wow.
Why? Because the way it's been built. So we call it hermetically sealed. So it's like a skin on the body, right? So even if something breaks, it's inside. The skin, it's a cover.
It's a cover, right?
So it's the same thing. The coating, what it does, it keeps it together. So there are a lot of these points where the forklift hits, and that's the reason it breaks. There is a top board which is attached with a leg, and then it's only thing which is connecting the leg to the top board is a nail. Now, if I cover it, the more you hit it, it's not going to have two-way jerk. It's just going to be one way, right? So there are a lot of these points that we could address. It's very technical.
How long did you take to solve this? All of this?
To be very frank, I was a person collecting crabs on a plate. That's exactly what I've been doing. So, as difficult as it sounds, a startup, what I learned with a lot of other startups that I've worked is, you never have the luxury to stop something and then do it. It has to be as a process. Like it's a perfect life. You can't say, okay, you know what, I'm going to work till 60 and after that I'm going to have a break and then I'm going to have a beautiful cottage filled with books. I'll sit outside and read. That's never going to happen. So I realized that, and thanks to Indian Air Force, I realized that very quickly in life. So in a startup, we had to solve these problems along with selling, otherwise funds wouldn't come in, right? Our investors are amazing. They understood when we as a team went there and told them that we want a product which is great. We want a product which is of the finest quality. We want a product which defies all the problems that's been faced by the pallet user. They said, yes, but what's your plan of action? We said, this is the plan of action. We have something in mind. We are now wanting to test it in different scenarios. This is how our sales is going to look. And then we're going to have, we're going to slowly get this product into the market. And then we will have the consumer start using it. Meanwhile, we'll also keep the business going with our EPS pallets, whatever we could do to sustain the business. And they were like, yes, we're good. Till the time you're not stopping something to do it. But all of us are very clear to a point where we said, the most important thing is to have a great quality product. Because I can talk, I can say a lot of things. The product, that's the proof of the pudding, right?
No, that's the next question I had.
Yeah.
When did you realize in that journey, how long did it take for you to figure out that you had the product market fit? That this is it, we've achieved it at some level. I know you will say you have to keep refining, but that baseline that you crossed.
I am refining it. So I think as I said, the
watershed moment, that click that happened. Right?
That's when we took scrap wood and then we did our first process. The entire process which goes through wasn't done fully. We were like too inquisitive to find out if scrap wood can be put together, sprayed, and it can take the same weight. Most important is the weight bearing, right? So the weight bearing, and then we took it to MSME. Not many people know, but MSME has got a beautiful facility by the government given to us where you can test your product for various things, right? From your thermal, your temperature. And trust me, MSME was so helpful. They were like amazing. They were more happier. They were like, okay, this is something new. We have a smaller machine. So can you give us a small pallet? Can you give us a small block? And then, we tested it and then we said, okay, we can replicate it. So there were a lot of things that was our, the tech
So that's
moment.
when you knew, okay,
Yes,
this will hold.
This is hold on.
Okay.
It was amazing because we took a normal wood pallet. We put 1 ton weight on it, which is the weight bearing. And then we took a pine wood pallet, pure pine wood pallet, coated it with our patented spray. And then we took a scrap wood pallet and we saw the pine wood and the scrap wood weight bearing was almost equal. So that was like, okay, we do not have to cut trees. And that was like, for me, I could breathe easy. That was important for me because, all the while we were talking about every time I would go in with a EPS pallet, I would say, you don't have to cut trees. You can actually, because this is a byproduct and this can be recycled. And,
I'm curious, do you have a number of how much of a carbon footprint or any other metric?
I do.
So I'd like to hear how is that statistics sort of evolved over the years for Ecopallet?
Okay, so if you go so let's say a normal pine wood takes roughly from 9 they say to 19. It's a very generic because various places have different temperature, the kind of tree bark length or the circumference that they need. So these are the figures which have been going on. 9 to 19 is how many years it takes for a fully pine wood tree to grow.
Correct.
Now, the moment you cut a tree, earlier I would say it was 40 pallets because that's how we calculated it.
One tree could give you 40 pallets.
Now I stand corrected. It's 8 pallets that can be made from one tree.
Because a lot of wastage, I'm guessing.
Yes. So 1200 by 1000 into 150 is one of the common sizes that we use. And there are a lot of people who've sat down, you've sat down and done the math correctly. And they've said it's going to be just 8 trees. It's not 40. And every 12th, 18th month, between the 12th and 18th, you need repair. That's where it starts. So you make 1 pallet. So you make 8 pallets. And the statistics also say that 80% of the pallets are at one point beyond repair and they go into the landfill. That's where we get our wood from.
That's right.
And there are only 8 pallets which can be salvaged. So there are different points in a wood pallet, right? So you have the connector blocks, you have the planks, you have the legs. So one of them get repaired and there'll be one point where you can't repair it. So every time it gets repaired, in the sense, you're not, if there is a plank which breaks, you're not joining it together. What we're doing is we're replacing that plank. So after, let's say 24 months, it's a new pallet.
Practically, because
it's
you
practically
again got,
a new pallet,
right?
It's not like you have put some glue into it and fixed the wood together.
Got it.
And the CO2 emission is calculated. We did an LCA with TUV Not, and we realized that because of our shelf life of how much a pallet can be used for and the kind of repair it doesn't have. Right. Because when you do a life cycle assessment report, they take every single thing into account. Okay. The number of nails it's used, the energy, how many people work on it, everything is taken into account. And? So we did not find an LCA in India for a wood pallet or a plastic pallet. So roughly it was determined that around 9 to 13 kgs is a CO2 emission in a wood pallet.
Per wood pallet?
Yes.
Okay.
It's 100 odd kgs in a plastic pallet.
Okay.
And ours was 0.2 kgs.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how many pallets have you supplied roughly by now?
Currently, we would have done in the last 2-3 years around 25,000, 20,000 pallets.
So there are two things here. Not only are you emitting that much, you're also ensuring that no more trees are cut.
Exactly.
So it's a double sort of a win for you, right?
Right. So see, people don't, even the pallet user would say that you give me a pallet which is long time use, why would I want to cut trees? So I would put it this way. I'm an eternal optimistic. I would say that every time you buy Ecopallet, for every 8th pallet that you buy, you already saved a tree.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it, right?
So every time, if there is somebody who's buying 40,000 pallets, imagine the amount of trees that he's saving. He's saving a forest. And it's on a value proposition that you see, and this is the value that we need to see, because ultimately it all boils down to if you can save trees from being cut. So I think that's something which I'm very happy about. It's not about, going and planting new trees.
Got it.
It's like keeping those trees alive.
That's actually interesting. So let's move a little bit into you now. I'm curious to know.
Okay.
You mentioned the Air Force.
Yeah.
How has that shaped your entrepreneurial journey? I'm just curious to see the correlation there.
So my dad was in the army, and after that he moved into railways, and then I got married to a fighter pilot from Indian Air Force. Who left his career so that I can get into my career. After 21 years of service, he decided that he's going to take a back seat and, let me actually go ahead and make my dreams come true. So, and I'm very blessed to have that. What Air Force has taught me is you live by the day, and they're very quick in their decisions. They have a zero error policy. Okay, it's very difficult to live with. So it's like being married to a fighter pilot means that his expectations are always high. There is zero error.
What does that mean? What does zero error policy mean?
Okay, so I'm going to give it to you in terms of an aircraft. So you're like to combat aircraft fighting, you either have to shoot down your enemy or he shoots you.
Correct.
So you don't live another day to fight another war, like how they say.
So you're always on the edge there.
Yeah, you always have to be very quick. They think on their feet. And being surrounded by that gang was really helpful. As much as, being in the Air Force, you're more like a trophy wife. But there are a lot of things that Air Force puts you in, because your husband is very busy in the work that he's doing, and you're in godforsaken places.
Yeah.
Chabua, Nalia, Suratgarh.
Okay.
We were more near to Pakistan than India. So,
so what did the Air Force make you do, for example? I'm curious to hear your experience.
So it's like, for example, we live in a community. We take care of each other. You never say that, I can't do this. I won't do this. So, people land up at your place because you don't have restaurants. You cook for 40 people.
Wow.
Whatever you have, you make do with it. And it also teaches you not to crib about life. Because today he's sitting and talking to you, and tomorrow, it's a hard reality that you don't even get to see his body. He comes in a coffin.
That's actually scary.
It is, right? Yeah. Today you've seen him, you sort of in a denial. No, I haven't seen him, because when the aircraft goes and bursts out, you hardly get anything.
Correct.
And then again, the next day you move. You know that your husband is flying the same aircraft, and something like this, you need to be eternally optimistic. You need to actually say, he's going to be fine. He's done his groundwork, and that teaches you a lot in life. You start thinking and you start looking at all solutions, not problems.
Let's talk about your fundraising journey. What were the highs and lows of that? I'm curious to hear that.
So I was very fortunate and lucky. So before starting of Ecopallet in 2015, I was working on this pallet for like roughly around 1.5 years. When the pallet came in, they got me to basically be a person who could launch this product. And then we realized that there were only two people who are passionate about this entire thing. One, the guy who wanted to invest in this, and the person who wanted to work. It was me. So Bruce is one person who's been with me in this journey right from day one.
So just to get this clear, you were working for another company building. You
I
started this on your own, and you had one other backer from the beginning.
So there was a group of people who got this particular EPS pallets, and they were getting more and more into their team. The company wasn't formed as such. Okay. So they said, can we put a team together and see how this entire thing can get a shape, because it's a new product.
Right.
Who's going to get it into the market?
Right.
What are the challenges? And so the product is beautiful. For me, the product was love at first sight. I don't know how people are not falling in love with this pallet. I'll show you my pallet. It's so beautiful. Okay. You see, I saw it and I fell in love with it. Right. That was very beautiful. Okay. And after 1 year, we realized that the people who weren't passionate enough, they slowly moved off.
Interesting.
And the guy who really wanted to invest in this business in India, he was good. He was like, I don't know, Indians, there were a group of Indians who came in, they're very passionate, and slowly it fizzled away. I said, no, I think we have a great product, we can work on it. If you are with me, I can do it. So right from day one, we were together.
You were involved from the beginning.
From the beginning.
Okay.
So 2015, we realized that we need to start our own company. And when I started the company, that's why I said till 2016, 17, we were only one employee. So
keeping in line with your lean team.
yes. So I said, see, we have a machine which can manufacture. Let's figure out how we take the patent, how we take this pallet, how people accept it, rather than just getting 20 people on board and saying, okay, this is not working out. I've spent all your money.
Yeah.
So I'm in US terms, I'm called as a penny pincher. And that habit, my husband will never agree with this because I'm very different at home. But yes, when it comes to my investors' money, I'm a penny pincher. There are a lot of things that we did when we were a very small team.
Example?
For example, I have another partner, as in like another colleague of mine called Joseph Franklin.
Yeah.
And me and Joe we have our own vehicles. So it was his Scorpio at that point of time. We'd take pallets, put it in the Scorpio, and we would travel throughout India.
Okay.
I think in 2018, 17, 18, we did roughly around 130,000 kilometers on road. We've gone to Baroda, we've gone to Indore, we've gone to Ahmedabad, all on the way. And what we would do is, we would either take Oyo rooms, which is very cheap, and with very pocket friendly. I wouldn't call it cheap. It's very pocket friendly. It's very helpful. Or sleep in, the Scorpio itself.
Wow.
And then go to restaurants where we can use restrooms, get ready, and then go for the meeting. So I have done really, really nasty things, which they really pull me. So I have booked certain rooms which are very questionable. And me and my colleague would go in and they would look at us and, for how many hours would you need? And I'm not staying with you in this room.
Oh shit.
It was that bad. But we learned our lessons, but at that point of time, it wasn't my investor told me that you cannot take a room in a Marriott hotel and stay. But I felt responsible, till the time you generate revenue and get the company into something. I felt that it's not nice to use somebody's money like that. I think these are very basic things.
I think what you said is more relevant now with this whole funding winter.
Yes.
Suddenly everyone wants profitability. I think you sort of picked it up from the go. Right?
Yeah. So that way, my investors stayed with me, and now we're slowly getting into the leasing, which we're very, very happy about.
Can you explain?
So currently we have two major players in leasing, which is Leap and Chet, and they've been in the industry for a long time. Leasing is basically pooling, or leasing is rental of pallets. So you make a pallet and you rent it.
Understood.
So, so for us, leasing makes a lot of sense because our pallets don't require repair much. So in a way,
it's like real estate.
Yes.
Largely.
Yes, it is. It is. So
wow, that's interesting.
And the best part is our investor is actually helping us get another investor.
So you are on your Series B for the where are you in your journey? Series A, Series B?
For Ecopallet, I'm pretty much happy with the investor because he has invested based on equity.
Understood.
So for me, it's like.
But which round are you in? Where is the company in terms of the scheme? I'm trying to understand which stage you're at.
Okay, this is a very different kind of investing because when it comes to So for me, it comes from US.
Okay.
And the person who has taken equity with Ecopallet, he holds most of the shares. So for him, it's its own company.
Understood. So your work. So it's very interesting. So you see, I think one of the nice things about you, I mean, talking to you as a founder, unique thing is that you come from such different influences. You look at the whole startup itself quite differently, is my sense.
Yes.
You're not looking at it in the cliched seed round, stage, Series A, Series B. That's quite interesting.
See, for me, there are a lot of people who call me a fool because, you should be holding 40%, 50%. For me, it's about, did I make a perfect product?
You're on another trip.
Okay, and see, I'm paid very well. I get paid very, very beautifully. There's only so much money that you can use at any given point of your life, right? So that way, I'm very happy. I have complete freedom to run this the way I want it. I don't want to hold 49 or 51% and then somebody breathing down my neck and saying, you can't work this way. For me, I had to pick and choose the things that I want.
Very interesting.
It's one of the questions, recently somebody asked me, they said, women cannot have it all. How do you say this? I said, that's because we are told to have everything that you want. What do I want? Do I want to be a best cook? No, I don't want to be a great cook. Do I want to be an amazing dancer? Maybe I don't want to be an amazing dancer.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to be the perfect woman or perfect mother. I'm ready to do it. I'm very happy doing my mistakes. So for me, I could choose, pick, and then my investor played with me. I am very lucky in that way to have Bruce invest this entire money. And he's been just motivating and letting me say, okay, you have this product, I'm ready. He gives me a vision. He tells me, Priya, this is where I want to see the company. I make it as my mission.
Understood.
So
I think that's
I
quite
work
interesting.
differently.
So there are two questions here. One is, how did you realize what is it that you wanted? It's so hard. That's a deep question.
Yeah.
It will take you a lot of time. I'm curious to hear that. How did you realize that this is what I want to do? This is the model I want to go because it gives me this, this, this. Because that's a very, very hard one to answer, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's sort of like my muscle memory. I was like very clear. So
You knew it. You always knew it, is what you're saying.
I knew what I didn't want. That made it easier for me.
Interesting. Either
Yeah.
way, right.
I was very sure that I don't want these things. So basically what I want was there. So when I realized that I don't want to be working in an environment where my creative freedom is curtailed.
Got it.
I don't want to be in a place where, somebody tells me every morning what I should be doing. I don't want to have a grade B product and work with it. These are things that I did not want. So I had my long list of do not wants and I got rid of it. And then
whatever remained was what would you want. Very interesting.
Yes.
So let's move on to the brand Ecopallet, right? I'm curious to hear, what is the core value proposition that Ecopallet offers? Is it, I'd like to hear that. Is it?
So eco, I would say, is more an ecological and economical solution.
Oh, okay. So it's
So
two different.
I want people not to just look at eco as a green product, but also, see, economy is equally important, right?
Very
I don't want to buy something which is so costly and it makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a very beautiful example where people say, there was this soap company which manufactured soap with the box, and they had to find out which box did not have a soap in it. And they were thinking a lot of things, and the easiest solution somebody came up with is put a fan. So the one which did not have a soap flew away, right? So it's not only about having those high fundo machines, which is great to have, but it doesn't work, or it works, but it's actually going to drain you, right? So the other way is to say, I will have something which works out. At the same time, for me, I needed to fit into the market. I couldn't have come up with a product. So constantly when people say the prices are dictated by the market, I say yes, the prices are dictated. There is so much a person can go when there is a value add.
Correct.
Okay? If you buy a petrol car and a diesel car, you're ready to spend that money when you know an extra 1 lakh. How do you calculate it? I'm going to run the diesel car more than the petrol car.
Correct.
Will I be able to, or should I put that 1 lakh in the account? And how many years will I take to break even? It's very simple calculation, right? So the same thing. Can I get something? So I started working out on what can I make to get the cogs down? How can I make it simple? How can I not complicate it? So that helped for me.
So then again, to summarize this, if I've understood this right, you've said eco is economical and eco-friendly there. It's not
economical
just
and
you
eco-friendly.
have to find a balance. And then you said you've tried to simplify things as much as possible so that it is. Next is, how has the industry evolved since 2013, you said, right?
Yes.
Sorry. Since you've started,
Yeah.
how has the logistics industry evolved? I know, given this whole geopolitical angle about China +1, supply chain, some of it moving to India, how does that affect you? Curious to hear that.
So evolve. So I'll treat it as two different questions. The way we've evolved is people. So people will not stop. People will only talk about the economical point of it. Ecological was not in the purview. At least when you go taking this pallet to a guy. See, pallet it's like a tissue paper. You need it only at the end moment. Otherwise, you're not thinking about it. But it's the most important thing in that situation, right? So it's like that. So when the pallet comes in, the procurement guy is at pressure to get these pallets. And there are like, local guys who would buy it and all of that. And he has given a cost-based model. And slowly from the top, people have started talking about the value-based. And there was a gap in between.
When did that change from cost to value?
It's still changing. It's still
It's
an
still not there.
evolving.
Oh, okay.
See, I'll tell you simple. As a procurement head, you're given a budget and then you're told that your performance will be analyzed based on the point that how much you're able to save for the company. How much are you able to procure it at the lowest cost? If you want to keep the value also higher, I need to fit into both the categories. I can't say, value-wise I'm great, but cost-wise I come up with a very deep cost.
Correct. I think
So
this
I
is
need
again
to be, I need to be the traditional and modern Bahu here.
very interesting.
So that's how it helped. So I think Ecopallet comes in both ways. And over a period, people have started understanding the importance of being ecologically, how can you have a product simple as, when I go, earlier it used to be the plastic shrink wraps and people have now wanted, they say, can you get somebody who's making shrink wraps which can be biodegradable?
Yeah. So there is more of
a
a
lot of
market push
awareness
towards
which
it.
has happened.
Right.
I'm very happy to know that people don't think looking at a cotton bag, they say this is eco-friendly and a plastic bag to be non-eco-friendly. People say no. Now we understand that cotton as a crop is very water intensive. Things which are going, it takes more time to biodegrade.
Right.
Plastic, people are learning about it. So I think that way we've evolved a lot and government has done its bit in terms of G20 and all of that. I'm very happy that way that people are talking about it.
Right.
In terms of us being compared with China all the time, I think what our statistics say is our cost of goods which are manufactured, that way we are like much better. And we will take some time. But as I would see it as, the fast growing economies made certain mistakes, like US, China. We have now taken notes. It's the same thing. Now, as I said, now we know what we don't want. We will not do what the mistakes they've done. I think that way it's a huge plus point for us. Like, and they're amazing people who are taking into account and what went wrong, and they are telling us this is what went wrong. So, it's all over in the media, and we can learn from those mistakes and not repeat it.
Interesting. I want to talk about you as a woman. You seem to be very passionate about how things are, from a woman's perspective, which is, I think, often largely ignored, is what you say. So you want to talk about how being a woman has sort of had its own challenges and learnings and your own unique insight into building a product.
I come from a family of women, I guess, with 3 sisters.
Okay.
And my mom was the happiest having those daughters. My first thing that I would remember is, my second sister being born, and then somebody came home and started crying, saying that you now have 3 daughters, and my mom said, get out. That is the first time I saw her saying this to someone. And
how did that make you feel?
I did not understand it then. Like, why? I did not understand both sides of it. Why is this guy crying, or that person was crying, and why did my mom get? She said, and every time somebody would come and say 3 daughters, she'll say, yeah, these are people who are going to take care of me, and I believe in them, I trust in them, and they're going to be successful. So for all 3 of us, my mom has been that flag bearer, and she's a homemaker.
Interesting.
Okay. And
so you got the pulse in very early then.
I would say I got it from my nani, my mom's mom. They had a lot of children, and the smaller things my nani did, I can write a book on it. Okay. How did she manage that house? My granddad would come home after his work and he would love cooking and stuff. And she would take care of the basics of the house, and she would be the one who would be running around getting a lot of things done. Right. She would manage it so well.
Right.
So that way, none of them made us feel bad about women cannot achieve this, So we were never told. I come from that kind of a background that we were never told. Let it be my dad, my uncles, or my brothers. No one told us that just because you're a woman, you cannot do it.
So then when you came out into the world, must have been jarring, no? You had all this empowerment at home, but you did face a lot of... How was it? How did you feel when you started interacting with the world.
It was funny. For me, it was like very different. It's like, I'll give you a very, very weird example. My mom makes the best idlis in the world. Okay. So when you get idlis every day, you don't go to hotel and order it, right? So for me, when the first time I had idli, which was bad, that is when I knew that it could be bad.
It could go really, really bad.
For us, it was like, for me, it was like funny. Like, why is it a problem? Yeah. Why are they feeling this way?
Yeah.
So I still feel, we both are different. There's a lot of gender bias in terms of data. Yeah. Things are made. Yeah. But women have this inherent quality to look at being an eternal optimistic, looking at problems and getting solutions. And somewhere we get tangled in the drama. That's something that I would tell all my peers to avoid. Put the blinders on and just concentrate on being what we are.
So you're saying your optimism comes from not just from Air Force, but also being a woman then in that sense.
We are eternal optimistic. Women are born optimistic. We made pessimists because of situations. Otherwise, you ask any woman if she can do like very small example. A woman would never tell you, look, there is dirt lying there. She'll be the first person to go clean it. Unlike a man would say, look, there is dirt lying there. It's like, that's how we are. We are basically wired that way. We are natural solution providers. It's just that some of us haven't, figured it out yet.
No, it's actually very interesting. What I found interesting throughout is how you arrived at where you have. The journey has been so unique, I think, in that space.